And welcome to the video. Welcome to the video. I just thought I'd do a little, well, I'm waiting to go live tonight. I've got 2.5 hours before I go live. I thought I'd do a little reaction video to something, and I came across this here. Let's just do it quickly. Let me just quickly show you. There. It's we've done a stream on Dr. G Explains. He does body language type thing. But the last one we done was this one on the moon landing dudes. You know, hoax or history, body language analysis. We did it on when they allegedly come back from the moon. They interviewed beforehand, interviewed afterhand, and compared them, sort of thing. So now we're going to check out now. Obviously, Bob Lazar has got a lot of people are convinced by him, but obviously there's got to be a bit of deception there because we know there's no such things as actual, real flying saucers from outer space. But is there real flying saucers from here on Earth that the government or whatever have been designing here on Earth that they try and keep from us? Possibly. So let's see what Dr. G Explains says about his body language. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff he does. You know, he's got a little thing up there in his banner saying decoding minds, unraveling crimes. Sounds good to me. I've been sub to him, but like I say, we did a little live on the last one because Kenneth's down our street, moonland and all that, fakery, you know, not us being fake, but debunking it, you know, debunking such things as the moonland and that. But, you know, let's get on with it, yeah? Let's do this thing. Right, back to it, and I will get the video up and we'll just get going. We shall just get going. Best way to do it, eh? Right, video, let's do it. Present it. And let's go. What wrong one? That one. Let's do it.
Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar is a physicist who claims he worked with the U.S. government to reverse engineer alien technology.
Which I think they have shown proof. He has shown proof that he has worked for them in some point. It's in some way or another NASA. Even though it was kind of hidden a little bit, his education, stuff like that, if I remember rightly. But yeah, I think there is evidence that he worked there.
Before we get into all of these controversial claims, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content.
And I'd like to add from my side, whatever I say in here from on either Dr. G Explains or Bob Lazar is just my opinion also.
Just like this. All right, let's go. So if you're wondering why I'm analyzing what appears to be an old video rather than his Joe Rogan interview, it's because I want to go back to the source. I want to go back to older interviews because after some...
I would say that's a more logical thing to do as well because that's like closer to the events of what is happening. I mean, if you take later videos and do it from there, like on the Joe Rogan one, I think we had to look at that one at some point. I can't remember. But then they've had time to, if they are talking rubbish, they've had time to perfect their stories, you know. Some liars don't remember the stories, but some can be good at what they do. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, I actually believe from things I've seen that somewhere or another, he believes some of the stuff he's saying, even though it seems fantastical. Whether it happened or not, he believes it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's hypnosis, MK Ultra, whatever. He certainly seems to believe some things, some aspects of his stories. Right, let's cover it.
But he has said something over and over and over again, it becomes easier to lie about it. So I'm going back to a 1989 interview. When it's
easier to lie about it or easier to perfect your story, yeah.
Closer to when these claims were newer. Hopefully that will give us a better baseline for whether or not he's telling the truth. Okay, let's just jump right in.
Witness any disc technology at Area 51?
No, there was absolutely no ET craft, ET technology, anything like that at Area 51. This is why...
Wow, for an old video, it's quite loud. Let's take it down a little bit, notch. There we go. Try that.
S4 was made specifically to separate it there. People at Area 51 do not have the clearance.
All right, one of the things you're noticing already,
And Area 51 is always brought into it. And there's always something about Area 51. I mean, I like to go over there and just have a look over the bloody fence, see what's going on. You know what I mean?
he speaks very clearly and concisely. This is something that he also does when he was on his Joe Rogan interview.
And that's the thing. I mean, even though I knew his story before I went into it would seem fantastical, when I went into it, he did seem very convincing, even though he's on the things he spoke about, like anti-gravity kind of mechanism or whatever anti-gravity machinery of some sort. The spaceship wasn't, or the spacecraft wasn't, or the unidentified, well, not even flying, the blooming ship of whatever had no wiring. Nothing was attached, through wiring. So it was meant to be some kind of force, anti-grav type thing, which we know there's no such bloody thing as gravity. So, is he convincing? Yeah, I think he is. Does he believe what he's saying? Some of it, definitely, I would say. My opinion.
He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't have to think much about what he's talking about. He just says it clearly. That is always a good sign when it comes to somebody who's telling the truth. Now, that doesn't mean somebody can't tell the truth that's also saying ums and ahs and looking around and trying to think, but he's not showing any signs of anxiety or nervousness. That's one of the things that I'm going to be looking very, very closely for, because when people lie,
that's why I always thought it seemed like he was telling the truth, or not telling the truth, but believed what he was saying or seeing, or his experiences. He certainly believes them. Whether they're true or not, he believes them somehow.
They have big lies, particularly when they have big lies on camera. They really do struggle.
But there's such thing as compartmentalization as well, There you go. There's one for you, what's your name? Andrew Johnson. That's the one. There's one for you. There's a little rambling man for you. Compartmentalization. There's a rambling man for you, brother.
Not to let that leak out. Let's watch this part again. Let's see if there's anything else.
Witness any disk technology at Area 51?
No, there was absolutely no ET craft, ET technology, anything.
All right, so you see him saying there was no ET technology, no craft, so on and so forth. As he shakes his head when he's talking, this is actually very consequential, because when we're feeling something deeply, our body's connected to what we're feeling. So when we say no,
he's shutting his eyes. It's like he's blocking something out, though.
We shake our head while we're saying no. That's far more likely than someone who says no and then shakes it after.
Unless it's just I'm caught in a blink. That could be could just be caught in a blink in the pause.
Afterward. Now, I watch a lot of trials, and it is very clear when somebody says no and then does it afterward. It's a performance, because you realize, okay, I need to show people that I don't believe this. So they shake their head no after they say it. He's doing it in sequence. It's synchronous with.
Well, I'd like to say, when I'd seen his interviews and that, they always seemed convincing, even though I knew what he was talking about was very fantastical,
What he's thinking and feeling, which lends more credence to the idea that what he says is something he believes.
Anything like that at Area 51. This is why S4 was made specifically to separate it there. People at Area 51 do not have the clearance.
How long were you employed at S4, and when were you hired?
When was I hired at S4? I guess.
All right, now.
There you go. S4, that sounds like compartmentalization to me. Areas segregated off, other areas, other parts of the business, or organization, whatever you want to call it.
He was first asked that question. Watch his mouth right here.
How long were you employed at S4, and when were you hired?
All right. You saw that lip licking.
He licked his lips. What does that mean? Is that a comforty thing? I don't know.
Now, there's lots of nerves in the lips. So when we're going to say something that makes us anxious, we tend to lick our lips. So that's why I'm saying when we're looking for lies, we look for things like that. That doesn't mean what he's getting ready to say is a lie. It could just mean that he feels something strongly about it. But typically that is because you are feeling strongly. Could be because the question makes him.
I think when it comes to body language as well, you tend to look for clusters, don't you? I mean, I'm no expert in these. What I'm saying is just my opinions. Completely. I mean, no expert whatsoever. Don't study it. I haven't studied it. Obviously, here get to hear a few things about it. And you get to pick up on things through life experience with body language. Definitely. But I think you tend to look for clusters. If you say, yeah, licking your lips, yeah, got him best sign of lying. But once, you know what I mean? Possibly you're lying, but it could be that you're just licking your lips. But if you're doing it continuously or licking your lips with some other kind of, I don't know, gesticulation that may suggest that you're lying, I don't know. I think we tend to look for clusters anyway.
Anxious, but we're going to look
Or should look for clusters, maybe. I don't know.
to see if there are patterns. We're not going to make any major conclusions based off one behavior.
When was I
that's my
hired at
point.
S4? I guess
You don't make a conclusion based off one behavior. You look for clusters. That's more than one thing, you know?
early 89, and I was probably there only about 6 months or so on a very infrequent basis.
How were you transported to and from work?
At the time that I was working there at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, there was a Special Projects EG&G building. When I was told to go to work, I drove there, parked my car there, and...
You mean there? I mean, I'm no body language or voice expert or whatever, but the way he's saying it, the inflection in his voice, when I drove there, when I parked there, to me, it seems like he's trying to get a story out or trying to make an emphasis on something, you know, whether it's trying to emphasize the truth or emphasize a story, I don't know. Like I say, my opinions and my opinion is this, I don't really know, but it's good to speculate.
got it.
So one thing that he's doing right now, he's providing a lot of detail. Now, it's not that liars can't provide lots of details. If you watch someone like John Wayne Gacy, he provides tons of details about things, but he's also one of the world's...
Yeah, but John Wayne Gacy also seemed like he was a charitable dude. Went and acted as clown in hospitals for the kids and that. And look what he turned out to be. Looked like he was a good dude. People liked him. Thought he was a weird little man, but people liked him. But then, what he turned out to be, exactly.
psychopaths. So it's easy for him to lie. Oftentimes when people lie about things like this, they don't provide this level of detail because they don't want anybody to be able to verify whether what they're saying is true.
Around the opposite end of the hangars, there's the standard entrance where you're dropped off at, go through a security check, and inside there's a small complex. There is some office space, there's several laboratories, the hangars.
Something else you're probably noticing is that his body is quite open. So when we're feeling vulnerable,
It's open, but he's looking quite stiff and upright. Maybe it's just his sitting posture.
we allow ourselves to leave our chest open, to leave our body open. When we're feeling defensive, we tend to close all of that off. Right now, we're not seeing these shifts. We're not seeing him start to close off. Because oftentimes when...
Talking in the video, I'm doing a Roger. I mean, yeah, I suppose you close yourself off when you're feeling a bit defensive. Cross your arms, things like that, you know. You're a bit more, you're not so chilled, not so relaxed. You're more like, and stop, you know.
Someone's lying, particularly when bigger lies are going to happen, then we see them shift. Then we see them close themselves off, or we see them leaning away from the interviewer. Things like that. We're not really seeing any changes right now.
Themselves, of course, and a few other places. I didn't have free reign to go wherever I wanted to. Everywhere I went to, I was essentially escorted. So that was really all about that I saw.
Inside the facility,
I mean, that picture they keep showing, I'm sorry, but that is, to me, looks like a bloody fake. That, I mean, I don't know if that's anything to do with him, but that seems like a fake to me. I mean, I think that the space, the saucers or whatever it is he's seen, the ships he's seen, yeah, I don't think he ever seen flying, did he? I can't remember. Let's listen anyway. I can't remember.
what was the basic layout? Were there underground levels?
Oh, yeah, no, he may not have seen him flying, but I think he might have seen him hovering, floating, sort of thing, or choices. I don't know.
I don't think there were any underground levels to it, though there could have been.
All right, now you see his eyebrows right here. Watch this.
I don't think there were any underground levels to it, though there could have.
So he's saying, I don't think there were any underground levels, but there could have been. Raises his eyebrows. Now, when we raise our eyebrows, that means we want people to focus on our face. So,
Right, okay. I'll take his word for it. I didn't know that, but I suppose it makes sense if you're raising your eyebrows. I mean, it's a widening facial expression. Widening, I mean, you're kind of projecting out, so maybe wanting people to take a, like, Like he says, recognize it. Okay? Okay. I'm learning.
As he's saying, I don't think there were any other levels to it. He wants you to hear that. He wants you to look at him while he's saying that. Now, sometimes when people lie, they stop raising their eyebrows because they actually don't want you to look at their face. They want you to look through them. They want you to look past them because they don't want to get caught in a lie. So his body language at this point continues to be one of someone who appears to be telling the truth, interestingly enough.
Okay. It makes sense. Like I say, I mean, what he experienced might not be real, but he thinks it is. So he could be telling the truth. Or what he experienced could be real, but it's not actually what we think it is. Like, he's definitely not from aliens, that's for sure. If he's experienced these ships and all that, then it's from being made here on Earth by the government, whoever, NASA, whatever. You know? Either that or he's not actually experienced it, but thought he has somehow. MK Ultra, hypnosis of some sort, I don't know. Maybe all of the above.
I don't think there were any underground levels to it, though there could have been. I don't think it was.
So you saw his hands go up right there, and that's for emphasis. And when people lie, particularly about
or defensive, isn't like putting your hands up defensive. Depends how you do it, I suppose. Maybe open that way, defensive that way, or I don't know. I keep saying I don't know a lot, yeah. Because I don't know. I do know some things. Not that thick, really.
these kinds of details, they tend not to emphasize. They tend to respond, but to try to hide. Now, he is sitting fairly still. That's probably because of the type of interview this is. You're not going to move around like you will on a podcast. So we can't read his body language as much in that way, because sometimes when people are talking and they're moving and then they start lying, they'll become more still because our fight or flight kicks in and we want people to not see us. But right now, his body language.
That's true. Been in situations where I don't want to be seen and you are like poised still. Either that or you want to flee and you run. Depending on the situation. Different situation, different responses.
Continues to be that of someone who appears to be telling the truth.
To really surmise how long it had been operational, everything did look fairly new.
Appearances aren't always what they seem, so.
By that I mean I don't think this installation was there in the early 70s. Nothing was worn. Things look fairly freshly painted. So
now, something you may have noticed is that his mouth seems to twitch some when he's talking. So it's almost like it's twitching in the direction of a smile. This would be more meaningful if it was twitching downward, like fear or surprise or shock. Those kinds of mouth.
I think he's actually, I mean, I don't know. I think he works, I think he teaches nowadays, some sort of teacher, professor of some sort. I'm not too sure. Maybe he's retired now. I'm not sure. But I know he was working as a teacher of some sort after all this.
Movements would be more concerning because when we feel fear or when we're feeling intense fear, our mouth goes down like that. Sometimes you'll see people's faces flash like that when they're talking about something that's making them anxious. We're not seeing fear right now. The mouth twitches are not, I noticed them, but they're not incredibly material in terms of what he's saying.
This installation was there in the early 70s. Nothing was worn. Things look fairly freshly painted. So, as a ballpark guess, I would say it would really surprise me if the installation was older than.
I've actually just noticed on his hold on, let me just move this a sec. Just noticed on his channel there, look. Over this side, he's got JFK assassination, Oswald, and LBJ, truth confirmed body language analysis. That might be interesting to go through one day as a stream. Be careful on it, but could do that as a stream. Actually, did that 11 days ago. It's only 24 minutes. Right, I'm gonna save that for a stream. That looks like it could be interesting. Let's not share. I want to save it. Save to watch later. Right, done. We did it. We did that. Oh, I've already done that. Right, cool. Back to it.
5, 7, 10 years, something like that. And the device exploded, killing both of them. The scientists that were killed there Allegedly, the detonation from the explosion was fairly large. It would have rivaled a small tactical nuke. So
To me, it does seem like he's telling the truth there. And it might be the truth. But I mean, I'm not sure about nukes. Like,
it was done at the Nevada test.
Once again, he is providing a lot of detail about these things, and he doesn't have to stop, think,
True.
process it all. Now, it's always possible that if what he's saying was not true, that he'd come up with a
could be well trained. It could be well trained.
very elaborate and very consistent story that he would have had to have thought about over and over and over again. But the way that he's saying this, he is stating these similarly to someone who is retrieving facts or things that they know. So it's very interesting. The way he presents is very consistent with, once again, somebody telling the truth, which is shocking to me.
It does seem that way. But
Tell us about the briefing files. Under what conditions did you gain access to them?
I was put into the briefing room with 121 or 22 briefings and really was just told to sit and read through them.
wow.
I think
Now, this is interesting. I
Wow.
want you to watch the corner of his mouth.
Imagine just sitting there reading paperwork all bloody day. No thanks.
Right here.
really was just told to sit and read through them.
See the corner of his
Yeah.
mouth? We oftentimes
Glance up at the one side. I do that though. I do like a half a like sometimes when I smile, it's kind of one-sided. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Does that mean anything?
associate that with contempt. So if this, in fact,
Right.
is something that's true, being asked to sit and read through them seems like something that he didn't enjoy doing. That's what this would suggest. So
Well-
it does
Maybe that is the truth, because who would enjoy sitting through reading all that bloody paperwork? Not me, that's for sure. Like I say, the things he was involved in, if they are true, I believe it's from the government. Or it's fantastical and he just believes it somehow through hypnosis or MK Ultra. But it's definitely not sorcerers from outer space, gadget.
seem that what he's talking about is evoking actual emotion, which is interesting. Because once again, when people lie, it's very hard to tap into real, genuine emotions. You're mainly just trying to not get caught. So the idea that you're lying so well that you're having fake memories and you're reacting to those it's not impossible, but very, very challenging to do.
Briefings and really was just told to sit and read through them. 2 stars of a binary star system. The craft allegedly came from there.
No, it didn't. Now, this is where it gets fantastical, because it did not come from there. It certainly didn't, because there is no there. What is there is what it says biblically. What did God do? He separated the waters from the waters. Yes, there's wandering stars and everything out there, but that's not the same as what they profess, planets and binary star systems and all that. Gas that's meant to go in all directions, coalescing, and dust and all that coalescing and making planets, creating planets, the total opposite of what it should be doing. Ridiculous. So this is where it's fantastical. And if he's telling the truth here, it's got to be through some kind of hypnosis, MK Ultra, or he believes it's some other way. Maybe through illness. I don't know.
1 or 2 autopsy photographs I saw.
Now, that was the flash of fear I was talking about. And let's go back and watch this, and I'm going to explain what we're seeing and why we might be seeing it.
They came from there. 1 or
This seriously didn't come from that. This seriously didn't.
2 autopsy photographs I saw.
You see that look right there? The mouth moving down? That's what I'm referring to when I talk about fear. So when somebody's talking about autopsy photographs that they saw, this is actually an appropriate reaction. So it's surprising when
So maybe he was convinced. I mean, maybe they showed him some kind of, I don't know, dolls or some sort that was realistic. Like we seen the greys with the big heads getting autopsied on the table. It was meant to be CIA classified, released kind of files. But always grainy, always terrible. And then you got the fake footage of them doing the autopsy. The Roswell one. That's the one I'm thinking of.
again, his body language continues to be very consistent with what he's saying. What fascinates me so much about this is that if what he's saying is not true, if it is just some sort of elaborate lie, he is probably the best liar that I have seen, or at least one of the best liars I've seen.
Well,
if in
that's it. That's what I'm saying. But there is such things as the ultra, you know?
fact he's not telling the truth. Really, really fascinating stuff to me.
The crowd allegedly.
We did a stream on this dude before, and I kind of came to the same conclusion that it does seem like he's telling the truth. But what he's talking about, like especially this type of thing, where it comes from, like it can't be from that. It just can't. You know, we live in a flat earth. That's kind of God's domain.
Came from there. One or two autopsy photographs I saw dealt with just a small photograph, a bust shot, essentially, just head.
Now, something I want to distinguish very briefly, because I do think this is important, is showing fear because you are lying versus showing fear because you're reacting to something you're remembering. Because both are important. The context is huge.
Well, there you go. That's true. You're showing fear because you're lying, because you're scared to get found out, or you're showing fear because you're remembering something. Either or. Either or. But, you know, I certainly do. Like I say, I keep saying, I do believe he believes it.
Really consequential when it comes to interpreting this stuff. So I want you to think about it like this. Let's just say you just told a huge lie and you're feeling anxious about it. So you got to touch your face, close yourself off, make yourself feel calm again, right? Because I just lied, therefore I need to calm myself down. That's one way. Or you just said something really consequential and you're going to get in trouble, so you show a little bit of fear because you just lied. It's another to have memories of something that's distressing or strange or weird, like what he's talking about, and show some fear there. Because his fear was before what he was really about to say, or was in the midst of it. Oftentimes, if we're going to see fear from a lie, we see it afterward. So once again, really a fascinating interview.
Dealt with just a small photograph, a bust shot, essentially, just head, shoulders, and chest of an alien with a chest was cut open in a T fashion and one single organ.
Let's go back. Now, if they are if that's the pictures, I mean, come on. I mean, if that, are they made up pictures or are they the actual pictures? Because that's terrible. I mean, come on. How could you believe that? Surely that's obviously a drawing. And obviously this is maybe a drawing of what he's seen. I don't know, but it looks terrible. It's probably a drawing of what he's allegedly seen.
Chest was cut open in a T fashion and one single organ was removed.
How do you know?
The organ.
How do you know one single organ was removed if you don't know what organs they have in the first place? Unless it was just because there was one organ lying there outside of it, but why? I don't know.
Itself and the
Oh,
other.
yeah, of course, it's them doing the autopsy. Of course, I'm talking crap, guys. Don't listen to me, pal.
Picture was cut and vivisectioned, essentially. The showing the different chambers in there. This was totally unrelated to anything I was doing.
Now you see him shaking his head like this. Now sometimes that can mean that you're saying no as you're talking. We do see that sometimes, but it's
are you trying to shift the memory out of your head because it wasn't very nice?
Different typically. Usually it will be if somebody asks a question and they're saying yes and doing this, then we'll know the way they feel is actually quite the opposite of what they're saying. Oftentimes people also shake their head for emphasis. This is, at least in this context, seems to be more emphasis than disagreeing with himself.
And
so what I said was nothing at all like what he said. Okay, I'm crap.
allegedly, what happened in '79, there was some sort of
Am I good and he's crap? No, I don't think so.
information exchange going on where there were actual live aliens at the facility, and at one particular point,
Let's watch his mouth again right there.
there was some sort of information exchange going on where there were actual live aliens.
But is that, as long as that's just the shape of his mouth, so now and again it twitches up that way. We just don't know, do we? Really, fully. I mean, look at the dude, like Dr. G explains. To me, his mouth seems toned down a lot. But is that his resting mouth position? I mean, everybody's got a kind of resting position in this. I don't know.
At the facility, and
You saw the mouth twitch again. After he said live aliens at the facility, there was the twitch of fear. And that's less common than people trying to soothe themselves after telling a lie. So once again, there was this undercurrent of fear when he's talking about this, which is
An exchange going on where there were actual live aliens at the facility.
You see that little twitch? Watch one last time. I know this is really hard to see, but I want you to watch right down here.
Information exchange going on where there were actual live
I see it. It's like a fraction of a second, but see the twitch.
Aliens at the facility. And
see, think about this. If you feel extreme fear, if somebody startles you, you know, your eyes go up, your mouth goes down like that. It's like surprise and fear in the same time. So right here, what we're seeing is, even though he's very plain-faced about a lot of this, there are emotions under the surface, which lends credence to what he's saying.
One particular point, there was an area where some security personnel went to enter. And apparently, because of not the sidearms, but the bullets in the sidearms, from what I understand, if they would have entered the area, the bullets would have detonated.
What do you mean the bullets would have detonated? Bullets detonating? What are you on about?
And supposedly one of the creatures tried to stop the security personnel from entering the area, and a fight ensued. And the bottom line from the altercation...
There was no alien creatures. Unless it was demons. Unless it was demons, but there was no alien creatures. No.
...was that the security personnel, I don't remember how many were involved, but were all killed, and they died of head wounds, and that's all that I heard of that story.
So as...
Just noticed as well that Dr. G Explains has done, like Prince Harvey as well. He's actually done quite a few people's we'd heard of. Like I say, I've saved one for a stream. JFK one, that would be quite interesting. I think I haven't done it, and have I done anything on JFK? I don't think. That might be quite interesting to do. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll do that. Cool.
He provides details because I've worked with a lot of liars. I've worked with a lot of criminals.
I've worked with a lot of liars. That's funny. It just sounds funny to me. I've worked with a lot of liars.
He's providing details about this, the way that he's providing details, the balance of what he does know versus what he doesn't. It goes back to the idea that if he's in fact lying, he's really just he would be a remarkably...
He does seem like, if he's lying, he does seem like a very, very good liar. But I have said this before on a live stream or a video I've done before.
Good liar, because this is all very consistent with someone in terms of how they actually recall information and how they provide information when they're talking about something they've actually experienced or been through.
The security personnel, I don't remember how many were involved, but were all killed, and they died of head wounds, and that's all that's above Q clearance. And Q clearance is the civilian top secret clearance.
When did you see your first disc?
He does always seem very composed. He never seems really uncomfortable. Unless you see micro kind of gesticulations or micro movements in his face, or I don't know, spasms, whatever. I don't know. But he always seems quite poised.
The first disc I saw...
Poised?
Now watch his neck right here.
And Q clearance is the civilian top secret clearance.
When did you see your first disc?
He said, when did you see your first disc? You saw a big swallow after that. So that implies that this question, either that or talking about Q clearance beforehand.
It affects him. The question affects him if he's swallowing. Is he getting ready to lie? Or does he affect him to a degree? He has to pose himself to tell it, and it's like a swallow. I'm guessing, you know. Like I say, I'll never, on these things, I'll never say 100%. It's just good to kind of speculate on it. I would never say I'm 100% this or 100% that on this kind of thing, because I'm no professional. I just like to react to these kind of things. You know, I'm always about the truth. So if I don't know, then I'm going to say I don't know, but I'm still going to speculate. You know, doesn't make it not the truth.
Something is making him feel strongly about this when he's responding to this question.
Yeah.
When did you realize the craft was not of earthly origin?
Well,
when the MK Ultra the story into his head. I mean, if he actually believes this part, it's got to be drummed in his head somehow.
it probably really hit me when I got inside the craft and looked around.
It's when he talks about like the anti-grav things, that there's nothing attached by cable or wire. It's all kind of, I don't know, signal or some sort, or magnetism. I don't know. Don't ask me, I'll just work here. Don't ask me, I just work here, Gaji.
And began to understand how the craft was operated, and finally grasped the whole project as a whole.
See, the more he's talking about it, the more emphasis you see. He is someone who has subtle movements. He's not somebody who's very explosive or has a lot of energy. But when he's talking about something and then all of a sudden he starts opening up, the more he's talking about having been in a craft, the more you're seeing his hands open up, the more he's actually moving his head. So it's sort of the opposite of what we would expect, because when people are lying, the longer they lie, the more uncomfortable they get. We're seeing the opposite here. The more he talks about it, the more comfortable he appears. Very interesting.
The craft was operated, and finally grasped the whole project as a whole, as what we were doing, the fact that we weren't building this thing, we were trying to find out how it was made. We were back engineering it. As far as emotionally,
They were back engineering. I don't think so. No, that because that definitely would imply it came from elsewhere. No, you maybe thought you were back engineering it if it was actually the way it was developed here on Earth. Or again, the story that's been pumped into your napper skull brain head.
people have asserted that, boy, that must have been the most exciting time in your life, and that's not the way it was. When I first got to look inside the craft, all I can
Again with these photos and all that, as you see, is like we always used to see these photos, didn't we? And they're never clear. I mean, that looks like a blooming spinning top. That ain't flying nowhere, bro. I ain't flying nowhere.
all I can say, it's an ominous feeling. You walk in there and
There you go. It's an ominous feeling. What is that? Ominous is not good. It's dark. It's a dark feeling. It's of evil, of a bad spirit type thing. So maybe it was MK Ultra, maybe it was demonic. Ominous, he said. Ominous.
it feels as if you shouldn't be there. I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's real ominous.
No.
Now, his body language, once again, is consistent with
No,
what
no, not Connie. There you go, look. Ominous, giving the worrying impression that something bad is going to happen, threateningly inauspicious. There we go. Some similar words: threatening, menacing, baleful, forbidding, sinister, doomy. See, sinister, inauspicious, impropitious, portentous, unfavorable, dire, uprising, black, dark, wintry, gloomy, ugly, direful, military, menacious, sinistrous. There you go. Loads of synonyms to go with it. Yeah, so foreboding kind of feeling. Not good. It could be demonic, which I have earlier kind of said it could be.
he's saying. Watch his chin.
It feels as if you should.
It feels as if you shouldn't be in there. His chin immediately went down. Now, our neck is very vulnerable. So when we're feeling defensive, sometimes our chins go down. If you watch a criminal who's talking about whether or not they committed a murder or something like that,
sense.
when they're having to respond to questions like
Does
that,
make
sometimes you
sense.
see their chins tucked down. You see them block their neck. I know I refer to a lot of forensic stuff because I watch a lot of trials, but that's where you can see these behaviors. And clear as day, if you want examples of these things and you want to see it in real time, trials are a great way to do it because you can verify whether or not somebody was lying, and you can compare that with the body language. But as you see, his chin tucks down. He's blocking his neck. This is something that actually makes him feel concerned. Lends more credence to what he's saying being true. And I know I've said that a number of times because I'm still shocked I'm saying it, frankly, because what he's saying is so consistent with his body language.
You walk in there and it feels as if you shouldn't be there. I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's real.
And he says it sounds kind of corny. I don't think it does. Not when you come from the point of view of like where I'm from, like my worldview. Like, I mean, I've got a relationship with Christ, and I know with that, entails like the other side, the demonic side, So to me, it doesn't sound corny at all. It sounds very realistic. The feeling of being the ominous feeling. I mean, not the actual flying saucers flying all over the place and that, because that could be just demonic. Or MK Ultra.
He moved his neck back up as he's talking about it, and that,
Or made by the government.
when somebody's performing, they tend to overdo things. When people have these little micro expressions or small behaviors that they don't realize they're doing, they tend to be quick or they tend to be small, which is exactly what we're seeing.
Ominous feeling. It's not an exciting feeling. It brings up a whole lot of questions in your mind. Well, where did this come from? And you know that they won't give you the answers to the whole story, but it's that's the only way I can describe it.
And this goes back to what he was saying before when he was talking about pictures that he saw, when he was talking about various experiences. I talked about that fear. This is consistent with that. This is not fun or exciting to him. There are things about this that are scary, that feel ominous, that feel.
And you can tell it's affected. You can tell by his face that he's experienced something, whether real or demon, he's experienced something. It doesn't seem like he's telling lies to me, but it is a fantastical story that what he actually believes, that they're actual spaceships from the binary system, whatever it was, it can't be. It just physically cannot be. So it's either demonic, he's ill, the government, or all of the above.
Dark. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and stop, because I think we've got enough from this interview to come to some conclusions. So let's talk about some of what we didn't see. What we didn't see were things like him flaring his nostrils to take in more oxygen. Now, that's a subtle thing that I look for during interviews like
that. Would mean, you're your heart's racing a little bit because you may be lying or deceiving. Certainly, you need more oxygen because your heart's pumping.
This, because when people are feeling anxious or when they're asked something and they're
maybe
a really big lie, you can see them trying to subtly take in more breath because their heart beats faster, it uses up more oxygen, makes us anxious. So there's subtle things like that. He didn't do anything like that. He remained remarkably calm throughout. There were a couple of points when he seemed anxious, but it was consistent with what he was talking about. It didn't seem like pacifying behaviors, and that's what we look for when people are lying. We look for them to pacify themselves. So let's talk a bit about the conclusions I've come to. If Bob Lazar is not telling the truth as he sees it, then he is probably the best liar that I have ever seen.
See, but he could be the best liar you've ever seen. Or he believes what he's seeing or experienced. He believes it himself, but it just physically can't be a spaceship from out there.
John Wayne Gacy, someone I referred to earlier, a famous serial killer, he was a tremendously good liar, probably the best liar of all of those types, of all the serial killers from those days. But there were still things that would leak out. I've done videos on him where you can still see when he's lying. Sometimes he covers it up pretty well, but there's still emotional leakage. So is Bob Lazar somehow capable of suppressing emotions in ways that almost nobody else is? I suppose it's possible. I can't verify that what he's saying is true. And frankly, this is not something that I know much about. I don't know much about all the conspiracy claims and aliens and all of that.
Like I say, it's his opinion. It's my opinion. It's everybody's own free opinion. We can't ever say for sure. Only him, God knows for sure what he experienced.
This isn't an area that I explore very often, but I didn't identify any lies. There's also the alternative that I'm sure people are going to ask is the man just crazy? Is this somebody who's delusional and believes these things, but he's really out of his mind? That seems like a very, very unlikely explanation for this, because I've worked with a lot of people with severe and persistent.
It does seem unlikely, but it's still possible.
Mental illness, and they don't present like this. And they certainly don't present like this consistently over years, over different interviews, because I have watched some other interviews.
Well, true, yeah. He is very consistent. I have seen other ones myself. He is quite consistent. He is. But that just goes to say to me that he believes it. It doesn't mean to say what he experiences is real.
He's done, and he is remarkably consistent.
What?
So the idea that he's just mentally ill and believes all the things he's saying seems to be the least likely explanation out of all of these, actually. So shockingly, no lies were detected. That being said, if there are other Bob Lazar interviews you want me to check out, or there's other things you want me to analyze, let me know. I'm
very convincing. Very convincing.
happy to watch whatever. And if people enjoy this,
There you go. That's it. Again, I'll get rid of that. There we are, back there. So again, I will show you his channel. That's his channel again, guys. I will put his description. I keep doing that. I will put his link in the description. I always say description first. Don't know why. It's just and it's too long to put the edit, so I can't even edit that out. Never mind. So yes, this is the kind of videos he does here. Look, guys. Kind of low. I mean, loads of people, loads of like people have been in the media, you know, for years and stuff like that. Trump, you know, Elon Musk, you know, there's loads of people from YouTube, famous people from YouTube. You know, we did a live stream on the alleged astronauts that didn't go to the moon in 67, 69, 69, sorry. Anyway, let's get rid of that. And that's it, guys. I am on in a few 2 hours. We'll be on at 9 p.m. GMT, so it's 2 hours and 5 minutes away from this present moment where I'm recording now. And I'll see you in a couple hours. I'll put this out beforehand, so it might just go from Premiere straight to my stream. I don't know, but I've got a new background especially for this one. A bit of zoomage in space. Bless, guys. And I'll see you in a little bit. Here the sunset's free. It's free. Indeed. Ta-da.